What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very exciting episode, a question that many of you have asked me on DM, on comments, in person, and I'm finally addressing it here because I feel like I have enough data points and enough understanding of what we are going to talk about. So here it is, but before I get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like and comment on the video. That helps out tremendously, as you know, so I really thank you. And I say this at every video and it's supposed to help me, apparently, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Thanks, guys. So let's dive right into it. So the number one question I've been getting lately is, hey, what do you think about the market? Do you think it's gonna go up? Do you think it's gonna go down? Let me actually just quote you some of the questions that I've been getting. So this person asked, number one, where do you think the card market is generally? Number two, do you see a retreat in price? Number three, two, as a new collector who is interested in collecting but would like to purchase some middle to high-end range cards, what would you consider to be a good starting cash point? So it's all very macro level, right? It's not, hey, should I buy this card? What do you think about the potential of Anthony Davis? But it's very macro. Another question that I got from a similar question that I got from another subscriber is, once the pandemic calms down and prices of hobby boxes drop back down, how will this affect the prices of sports cards? Thanks for your time. And we know that the 2020 basketball Prism boxes, the hobby boxes, have dropped quite significantly in price. I think they're hovering at $1,400 right now, which is ridiculous, considering that when they got first introduced on Panini's website, I believe it was at $2,500 or somewhere $2,000 to $2,500, which is quite a significant drop in box price. And let's talk about this, right? What do I think? And by no means am I giving you financial advice. As you know, I'm not a certified financial advisor, but it's just my take on it. And I feel like some people appreciate my take. So thank you for listening. All right. So this is what I think about this kind of market that we're in. Some softness we're seeing, of course, at every level. I think soccer has cooled down a little bit. Basketball has cooled since January, outside of, the vintage and, Hall of Fame cards. Football, not really picking up just yet, even though we're in the middle of off season. Baseball is kind of hot. I know that, other, Marvel cards, for example, are doing really well, but I'm strictly talking here about sports cards, okay? So I found this super interesting thesis. I think it's a thesis by someone. It was publicly available. It was done by a student at Stearns, and I'll leave the link below. It's titled, Art Markets During Wars and Recession. So in essence, in 2 pages, this person summarizes how did artworks, and we're talking about top-notch, one in a lifetime kind of artwork, how did those value maintain throughout wars and recessions that happened over and over again, right? And the reason why I'm referencing this thesis document is that I feel like some of the higher end sports cards that we see around, anything, with lower than 50 pop, maybe even 100 pop, I would consider those, a collectible. It's an artwork beyond, just for fun, right? I mean, the value is definitely there. The rarity and the scarcity is there as well. So I'm kind of giving a comparison of these monumental artworks with the higher end sports cards, whether it's in basketball, soccer, baseball, etc. And we've seen, like record breaking price points for some of these really higher end cards. But this is what the thesis says in quote, and you can go and read it on your own time. This is what it says. Using business cycles dates from the National Bureau of Economic Research and the Art Index, on average, art prices have decreased on average 0.7% during the past 27 recessions over the 1875 to 2000 periods. Let me repeat that. 0.7% during the past 27 recessions over the 1875 and 2000 periods. In simple terms, what that means is basically these higher end artworks did not see a price impact during recessions. Now you may be wondering, what about inflation? Did it withstand inflation? And the answer to that is yes. Quoting from the thesis again, it says, The average appreciation of art pieces was 7.7% over the 1875 to 2000 period. So this isn't just, in the recession periods, outpacing inflation by 4.9% compared to an inflation beating real return of 6.6% by the S&P 500. So while the stock market outpacing inflation performed a return of 6.6%, these art pieces appreciated 7.7%. So what is the conclusion that this author is making? Thus, art seems to be a good long-term store of value in addition to the aesthetic pleasure enjoyed by its collectors. I can't say this any better, right? The value stays, it holds or appreciates for these higher-end artworks, and the fact that there's that pleasure, that joy, that adrenaline that we get from holding and looking and talking about these cards, it just cannot be compared to, crypto. Crypto obviously is a different conversation. It has a utility factor to it. Hopefully more so in the future where we can transact with crypto more frequently and more widely. So maybe that's a bad example. But in essence, what we're looking here are assets that not only appreciates in value, but continues to hold that tradition of pleasure, adrenaline, joy, happiness, etc. So what do I think about the sports card market? I think there will be ups and downs. There could be really bad downs for some cards. For example, I made the terrible mistake of buying up 2014 World Cup soccer cards at its peak last year, and I'll link the video here. That was probably one of the biggest investment mistakes that I made off of a hype. I did not do my research enough. I saw other people buying it, so I figured I need to buy it too. And the results were painful. It was a painful learning. But when I look at it right now, I ask myself, one, is there that scarcity and rarity factor? No. Are there enjoyment of this card by certain demographics, certain people? No, because it's not a rookie card. Yeah, it's first year Prism World Cup card. It's not even the first World Cup card, I think. It's not a rookie card. There's obviously a contention of should cards even be considered rookie, given that they're not stickers. There were stickers long before then. And for example, Messi has never won a World Cup. So what is the relevance of that 2014 World Cup Messi card? I don't know. But obviously, a year ago, I thought there was value in it, and I paid 5, 6, 7x the current price. If you gave me $200 right now, I am not going to go buy a Ronaldo 2014 World Cup PSA 9. Full stop. That's just me, right? Because although the upsides of these cards may be really big, it's not guaranteed. The risk is too high for me, for an investor like me. So another example would be, I talked about Jimmy Butler in my last video. If Jimmy comes out like a monster in this playoff, freaking destroys everyone, and he ends up at the finals going against the Nets, yeah, his card prices absolutely are going to, tick up. Like, it's going to hockey stick for sure, like hours by hours, right? But while that opportunity is there, if you gave me money today, I'm not going to go use that to go buy Jimmy Butler's Prism PSA 10 rookie card, because although it could very well happen by the player's performance and that unexpected factor being built in, it's not pleasing in my eyes. I don't see it as a long-term hold, and so that's not something I would do. My portfolio, as I have reiterated again and again, is 75% safe, 25% not safe, and that's more gambling than investing, and just seeing where it goes and hedging against each other so that at the end of the day, you're making more money than you would have keeping it in a savings account or whatever account that you put your money in. So with that, let me address the questions again. Number one, where do you think the card market is generally? I think we're kind of like in a limbo. We're about to bust. We're about to bust into the next phase of things, or we're going to bust into pre-March 2020. That's just my take on it. So we're at a very interesting intersection, I think. So like I said in my previous video, and I will link it up here, do everything according to your own risk appetite. Don't overextend yourself and get caught with your pants down. but also don't put in $15, $20 expecting it to go to $2,000. That's not going to happen. So do everything with your own risk appetite. But I do feel like we're at an inflection point of something greater or something not so good. And second question, do you see a retreat in price? I think for most of the cards that I look at, so mostly basketball cards pre-2010, I don't think that there will be a retreat in price of those things with the macro level elements staying constant, meaning that unless there's a economic recession globally, unless we have another outbreak of the pandemic, unless there are things that outside of our control that plunge the market, I don't think there will be a retreat in prices of the cards that I generally like, which are pre-2010, 2009 kind of cards. And I wouldn't consider them super vintage. I wouldn't consider them super modern. They're kind of like in the middle. So yeah, that's my take on that question. So in overall, I know there's a lot of sentiment out there. Hey, vaccines are working, things are opening up, games are opening, people are going out, people are traveling. Would this impact the sports card market? I think the pandemic or, the forced closures of, entertainment venues and the shelter in place, lifting those doesn't have a direct impact to sports card market. You know why? Because no matter what kind of economic downturn or upward trend that we have been in history, and of course history is an important lesson, but it's not a direct indication of what's going to happen in the future, but we can only study the history. Whenever we had those economic recessions or a boom, the gambling market more than survived. So my take on that is basically, I think that the pandemic coming to an end here in the United States, at least, I know that there are other parts of the world that are still struggling with that, but I don't think that that's going to all of a sudden reduce demand or supply into the sports card market, because this is as close as you can get to Vegas. For those who don't live in Vegas, it's a fun investing, but also a fun gambling, because sports is so big. It's such a big part of the American culture, and I don't see it going away just because people are now going out to dinners and meeting their friends and traveling. So that's my take on the current market and where I think history can give us some lessons. Make sure to check out my previous video on taking your own risk and making sure that you're being intelligent when you make those purchase decisions. I'm excited to see how the market is going to react, especially with some of the big catalysts coming up. For example, the Hall of Fame ceremony, the NBA playoffs, the Euro Cup, the Olympics. Hopefully it still happens. The NFL draft. I mean, there's so many sports events that are coming up, and not only that, there are big shows that are coming up. Dallas obviously happens every other month, so that's another big show that's happening in May in a timely way. It's when the NBA play-ins and playoffs are starting, and also NFL relevance. And of course, we can't forget about the National that's going to take place in July. Fingers crossed. So these events will definitely build as a catalyst to sports card demand, I think. So I'm just really excited to see where it's going to go. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.